From the United States, we received notices about a new field of philosophical research called virtue epistemology. We also received some very nice books, like the one from Robert and Woods from 2007, where the authors asking which character traits a researcher should have in order to produce valid scientific knowledge. They underline, they say, you need courage and caution. Courage and caution if you want to be a good scientist. This sounds funny to us, in a way of funny. This sounds funny to us Europeans because we have this very long story of ideas, of images, of visions we somehow live by, we think by, and courage and caution, or courage and measure, the right measure, the proportion. No, our grandfathers would have said. This combination of courage and caution reminds us of our medieval knights. So the virtue could be called, this combination of virtues could be called chivalry, courage and caution together. You might object chivalry, well, chivalry means keeping the doors open for the ladies and that stuff, but don't stick to the present time. Just think about the good old knights, Parzival, these guys here. And in the old catalogues of knightlyhood, of chivalry, you also find faith in just faith. And you think, well, this is a Christian thing. It is not, if you think about history. It's something that transcends the borders of concrete religions. Just think about Richard Lionheart and Saladin, who respected each other as knights. This is chivalry. It is going beyond the distinctions of religion and of gender, I guess. Just empirically, most of the knights were men, but, well, could have been otherwise, in theory. Courage and caution. This is a strange association, maybe. It sounds like a strange association, but indeed, when reading Max Weber, one of the founders of social thought, social theory, sociology, cultural science, indeed talked about chivalry as an essential virtue of a scientist. This could be criticized because, at least when I studied epistemology at university, the standard distinction was between, this is heuristics, it's like Mr. Kekulé dreaming on his sofa, the molecular structure of C6H6, heuristics on the one side, and the validity of the scientific proposition on the other side. But at least when we have a look at cultural sciences, we can see that this distinction does not work properly, and probably it doesn't even do so for natural sciences. I don't know. For the social sciences, just think about something we know from our everyday life as teacher. We are usually, at the beginning of the semester, we are asked to produce things like course outlines. And we are supposed to write into these course outlines learning outcomes, which is funny. It's like Skinner with the rats. You know, they have learning outcomes. And our students are supposed to have such things as well. And you are not left alone. You get a list of possible learning outcomes. And the first one for philosophers always is critical thinking. Now, you might reflect about this critical thinking if you want to. This could be interesting because it presupposes, in a way, uncritical thinking, which would be a really relaxing activity indeed. Now, you start reflecting, and if you start reflecting, you will never get your course outline ready. Just talk with your colleagues. They will just say, come on, just write it down. No, as they wanted. They. Who? And somebody would ask, bureaucracy, which is a concept from social science, bureaucracy. They might have as well said, this is just the paperwork, but just the paperwork doesn't explain anything. Or these are the crazy guys on the first floor. But this does not explain why every teacher at universities in this poor world has to write critical thinking among these, has to list critical thinking among these learning outcomes. Or like understanding philosophical texts. No, what? Okay, don't reflect, just write it down. Just write down what they ask you to write. It's just bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is a sociological concept, and indeed it has been created the way most of us use it today by Max Weber. Bureaucracy means you have of course you have an office. No, you don't need the office for Max Weber. You just need a desk and a Beamter, so a state employee, but also another clerk, somebody who is well trained and is working, applying formal rules. It's all the same. I have to fill in, you have to fill in, my colleagues, everybody has to fill in these things. Who is applying certain rules, and this indeed explains why I just shouldn't start reflecting about what I am asked to do here. Bureaucracy is a social concept of social science. Max Weber calls these kind of concepts ideal types. And what he means is we don't see concepts as a glass of something or a pot of something and you put everything in and that's it. Now this is the general concept. We talk about classes, like in natural sciences something is a planet or something is a star. In cultural sciences, as in philosophy, we all know one thing may be part of a group, but of the other group as well. So you don't know, something may be something, but the contrary as well. That's part of the game. Now, ideal types are not these kind of pot concepts, but sharp concepts, as Max Weber calls it. They just cut into the material. And he says in his famous essay about the objectivity in the social sciences, more or less, in this famous objectivity essay, he says we get ideal types just accentuating one-sidedly certain points of view, or one point of view. And we look at the phenomena and we include these phenomena into our ideal type, phenomena which may be more or less present in the material, or may even be absent. So in our example, I talk about bureaucracy, but I know in this office up there, everybody is drunk all the day. I don't know, something. Doesn't change. It's bureaucracy all the same. They're applying their rules, something is coming down, I have to do what they want me to do. This is bureaucracy. So this is the ideal type. And if you think about this kind of concept, you immediately understand why courage is important for scientists. No, the scientist has a look at his material and says, okay, we will leave that away. This one, yes, may be interesting. And he takes, from his point of view, he takes certain phenomena inside and generalizes them maybe somehow and makes his concept. The consequence is that, as we all know, social scientists, cultural scientists usually fight a lot. At least Max Weber did. He was famous for his fights with colleagues. And he wrote, after having published his famous essay about the Protestant ethic and the spirit of capitalism, he fought for years with colleagues. He wrote texts that were longer than the original one, defending his point of view, attacking the colleagues who said, well, your concept of Protestantism doesn't consider a certain denomination I found in Western Tennessee, and so on. He says, I didn't care. So I just wanted a sharp concept in order to explain what Protestantism does at the beginning of modern capitalism. Now, this combination of courage and anger in this case has conceptually a long story in European history. We can see the roots of Max Weber's thought about epistemology, of the social cultural sciences, in his famous speeches called Science as a Profession or Vocation, because it's German Beruf, which can be both. Profession, vocation, and science as a profession, and politics as a profession. These two essays are talking about two different groups of persons, but indeed they are both founded on the basis of the idea of Plato, from ancient Greek, from Athens. Plato's Republic already contained all the ideas Max Weber is putting in here. It starts with Max Weber talks about the education of soul, which is a Platonian idea, not Christian at all. And he talks about academic life as an aristocratic affair. And he adds to two faculties we empirically find in our soul, in our being. One is thought. We reflect, at least now and then. Thought, pure thought. Then we have our more or less bodily desires. And then there's the third one. This third one, Platon calls Simonides, which in medieval German translated into Mut, and in modern German is mood, more or less. Mood and courage means courage. Courage and spirit, courageous spirit may be a translation, or the same. Simonides, the third part of the three-partitioned soul from Platon, is the place where courage arises. Apart from courage, also anger arises. And Simonides then should be called the main virtue for a scientist and as a researcher, and not thought, not the intelligence or something. It's Simonides. We translate it with more or less, Max Weber translates this with passion, Leidenschaft, in his speaking, in his speeches. So now we see how his epistemology comes together with his description of what a scientist is or should be. Never afraid.